A scarred German shepherd faced his final hours in a cage, then a miracle changed everything. The Ironwood Animal Shelter sat on the edge of Briarfield, a small town where the hum of daily life rarely reached its concrete halls, where hope flickered like a candle in a storm. Behind the shelter's chain-link fences, cages lined the walls, each holding a story of abandonment, of longing, of dreams deferred. In the farthest corner, a German shepherd named Titan lay curled on a thin blanket, his black and tan coat dulled by dust, his amber eyes dimmed by a sorrow that clung like frost. Scars crisscrossed his muzzle, badges of a past he couldn't speak, and his once proud frame seemed to shrink, as if willing itself invisible. For months he'd been passed over, his size too daunting, his growls too sharp, his story too heavy for adopters seeking an easier love. Titan had stopped trying. Once he'd pressed his nose to the bars, tail wagging at every footstep, but the endless parade of strangers, eyes averted, steps quickening, had worn him down. Now he lay still, his breaths shallow, his heart resigned to the fate whispered in the shelter's halls. Tomorrow his cage would be empty, his time run out. The staff moved gently around him, their voices soft with pity, slipping treats through the bars he barely touched. "Poor boy," they'd murmur, their hands hovering, afraid to stir the fear that lingered in his gaze. Titan's world had narrowed to shadows, his hope a spark long buried. Across town, in a cluttered apartment filled with plants and dreams, Lila Morrow scrolled through her phone, her hazel eyes catching the glow of a late-night post. A vet tech at Briarfield's only clinic, Lila was 28, her chestnut hair often tied in a messy bun, her heart a compass for the broken. The post was simple, a grainy photo of Titan, his eyes haunted, a plea from Ironwood. Last chance for this boy, scheduled tomorrow, someone see him. Lila's breath caught, her fingers freezing on the screen, a pull in her chest she couldn't name, a whisper of destiny, a call to act. She sat up, her pulse racing, the weight of Titan's gaze piercing through the digital veil. Lila knew the shelter's rhythm, had seen too many cages cleared, too many sparks snuffed out. But this was different. Titan's eyes held a story, a plea, a heart still beating beneath the scars. She grabbed her keys, her sneakers slipping on as she moved, the clock ticking past midnight. The drive to Ironwood was a blur, Briarfield's streets quiet under a moonless sky, her heart a drumbeat urging her forward. "Hold on," she whispered, her voice trembling with purpose, as if Titan could hear her through the miles. The shelter loomed ahead, its lights dim, a fortress of last chances where Titan waited, unaware of the miracle speeding toward him. Inside, the night staff stirred, surprised by Lila's arrival, her breath fogging in the cold air. "I'm here for the German shepherd, Titan," she said, her voice steady but urgent, her hands clutching the adoption form she'd grabbed from her car. The worker, a tired woman named Sarah, frowned, checking the log. "He's scheduled for tomorrow morning, Lila. You sure? He's not easy." Lila nodded, her hazel eyes fierce with resolve. "I'm sure. He's mine." Sarah hesitated, then led her to Titan's cage, the shelter's hum falling silent, as if holding its breath for what came next. Titan lifted his head, his amber eyes catching the light, wary but curious, as Lila knelt before the bars. Her presence was soft, unhurried, her voice a lullaby cutting through his fear. "Hey, big guy," she said, her smile trembling with hope. "I see you. I'm not giving up on you." Titan's ears twitched, his body tensing, but he didn't growl, didn't retreat. A flicker of trust, fragile as a new flame. Lila's heart leapt, her hand resting on the cage, her promise unspoken but fierce. She'd fight for him, for the dog no one else had chosen. Sarah unlocked the cage, her movements slow, her voice low. "He's skittish, been through something rough." Lila nodded, her eyes never leaving Titan, her calm a shield against his fear. She offered a treat, not forcing closeness, letting him choose. Titan sniffed, his nose brushing her fingers, a tentative step toward a stranger who felt like home. The paperwork was a formality, Lila's signature a vow, and when the leash clipped onto Titan's collar, he stood, his frame towering but uncertain, his gaze locked on Lila as if testing her light against his shadows. The walk to her car was a quiet pilgrimage, Titan's paws heavy on the pavement, his head low, the shelter fading behind them. Lila opened the back door, her voice gentle. "This is it, Titan. Your new start." He hesitated, his eyes darting to the dark, but her hand, steady on his collar, was a lifeline. He climbed in, curling tight, his breaths uneven but trusting her enough to follow. Lila slid into the driver's seat, her heart pounding with awe, her whisper a prayer as she pulled away. "You're safe now, big guy. We're going home." Briarfield slept under a starless sky, its streets a canvas for their journey. The clinic's glow a distant memory as Lila's apartment loomed ahead, a small space, but hers, now theirs. She led Titan inside, his claws clicking on hardwood, his eyes scanning the unfamiliar. Plants spilling over shelves, a couch worn with love, a window framing the town's quiet pulse. He froze by the door, his body rigid, his whine low, a dog caught between survival and surrender. Lila knelt, her hazel eyes warm, her voice a vow. "No rush, Titan. We've got time, all the time you need." She set a blanket by the couch, a bowl of water nearby, her movements deliberate, giving him space to breathe. Titan circled, his nose twitching, then sank onto the blanket, his amber eyes fixed on her, wary but not afraid. Lila sat cross-legged, her phone forgotten, her heart full of a dog whose scars told a story she'd learn, whose trust she'd earn. "You're not alone anymore," she said, her smile a beacon in the dark. Titan's tail flicked, a spark of hope igniting, his sigh a whisper of a future neither could yet see. Outside, Briarfield's night held its secrets, the shelter's shadow a memory Titan carried but wouldn't keep. Lila watched him, her heart swelling with purpose, the pull that had saved him now a bond forging in silence. The world beyond could wait, reporters, posts, the past, but here in this small apartment a miracle began, a German shepherd's heart stirring under the weight of a love that refused to let him fade. The Briarfield morning broke gently, sunlight slipping through Lila Morrow's apartment windows, casting golden threads across the hardwood where Titan lay. The German shepherd's massive frame curled tight on the blanket by the couch, his black and tan fur catching the light, his scars a map of battles fought in silence. His amber eyes flickered open, wary and searching, tracing the room's unfamiliar shapes, potted ferns spilling over shelves, a coffee mug forgotten on the table, the faint hum of a town waking beyond the glass. 4 years in Ironwood's cages had taught him to brace for noise, for hands that took but rarely gave, and though Lila's warmth lingered in his memory, trust was a language he'd forgotten how to speak. Lila stirred on the couch, her chestnut hair spilling from its bun, her hazel eyes soft with the weight of a night spent watching Titan breathe. She'd stayed close, her presence a quiet promise, her heart tethered to the dog who'd nearly slipped away. The shelter's call still echoed. He's not easy. But Lila saw past the warnings, past the scars, to a soul yearning for safety. She rose slowly, her movements deliberate, her voice a whisper as she stepped toward the kitchen. "Good morning, big guy," she said, her smile a beacon in the dawn. Titan's ears twitched, his head lifting, but his body stayed low, a statue carved from caution. The apartment smelled of lavender and yesterday's coffee, a haven Lila had built from thrift store finds and dreams, now shared with a German shepherd whose heart she vowed to mend. She filled a bowl with kibble, its scent coaxing a flicker of interest in Titan's gaze, but he didn't move, his eyes darting to the door, a reflex born of years expecting loss. Lila set the bowl a safe distance away, kneeling on the floor, her hands open, her patience a river wearing down stone. "Whenever you're ready," she said, her voice a lullaby, her love a light against his shadows. Titan's nose twitched, hunger battling fear, and after a long pause he inched forward, his paws silent on the hardwood, his body tense as if the floor might vanish. He sniffed the bowl, his amber eyes flicking to Lila, searching for a trap, but her stillness was a gift. No demands, no rush, just a woman who saw him. He ate, slow at first, then faster, his tail giving a single hesitant thump, a spark of trust, fragile but alive. Lila's breath caught, her tears held back, her heart swelling with the weight of his choice, a step toward a home he didn't yet believe in. Briarfield hummed outside, its streets alive with delivery vans and morning joggers, but inside time was small, measured in Titan's cautious glances, Lila's gentle words. She sat cross-legged, a notebook open to jot clinic schedules, but her focus stayed on Titan, watching him retreat to his blanket, his body curling tight, his eyes fixed on the window. The shelter had shared little. Found stray, aggressive history no owners claimed. But Lila sensed a story in his flinches, his low whines at passing cars, a past that lingered like a storm on the horizon. Midday brought a knock. Her neighbour, Mrs. Clara Tate, a widow with a penchant for gossip and homemade jam. Lila opened the door a crack, her voice low. "Hey, Clara. Not a great time." Clara peered past, spotting Titan, her eyes widening. "That's the shelter dog? He's big." Titan's head snapped up, a growl rumbling low, his body tensing as Clara's voice carried the edge of judgment. Lila stepped between them, her hand raised, her tone calm but firm. "He's family, Clara. Just needs time." The door closed, Lila's heart racing, Titan's growl fading to a whine, his eyes meeting hers, a question, an apology, a plea for safety. She knelt beside him, her hand hovering, not touching, her voice a vow. "You're okay, Titan, no one's taking you away." His whine softened, his body easing, a trust tested but not broken. Lila's mind churned. His reaction wasn't just fear, it was memory, sharp and raw, tied to voices, to hands, to a life before the shelter. She grabbed her phone, texting her clinic colleague, Sam. "Need info on Titan's intake, anything about his past?" Sam's reply was swift. "Just scars and a bad attitude, I'll dig deeper." Lila nodded, her resolve hardening, her love a shield for the dog curling tighter on his blanket. Evening fell. Briarfield's skyline glowing pink, the apartment a cocoon of quiet hope. Lila cooked pasta, its steam curling in the air, and offered Titan a piece of chicken, her smile bright when he took it, his tail wagging faintly, a dance of progress, small but radiant. She sat by him, her voice weaving stories of her day. Sick kittens, a parrot named Blue, her words a bridge to his guarded heart. Titan listened, his head tilting, his amber eyes softer, as if her voice was a song he was learning to love. Outside, a car idled too long across the street, its engine a low growl that pierced the dusk. Titan's ears shot up, his body rigid, a snarl rising as he lunged to the window, his bark sharp, his scars seeming to pulse with memory. Lila froze, her pulse spiking, her eyes catching the car's shadow. Dark, unfamiliar, gone in a moment. Titan's hackles stayed raised, his whine a mix of fear and fury, his gaze locked on the street, a dog haunted by ghosts she couldn't see. "Hey, big guy," she said, her voice steady despite her unease, her hand near but not touching. "You're safe here. I've got you." Titan's snarl faded, his body trembling, his eyes searching hers for truth. He sank to the floor, his whine low, a dog caught in a storm only he understood. Lila's heart ached, her mind racing. His fear wasn't random, it was tethered to something cruel, something that lingered beyond Ironwood's cages. She grabbed a blanket, draping it near him, her voice a whisper. "We'll figure it out, Titan. Together." He inched closer, his nose brushing the blanket, a trust flickering through his panic, a bond forging in the face of shadows. Lila sat awake, the apartment silent but for Titan's breaths, her phone open to the shelter's post, its words a reminder of how close he'd come to fading. She typed a note to herself. Find his past. Protect his future. The car's shadow lingered in her mind, a question without an answer, but her resolve burned brighter. A vet tech, a dreamer, a woman who'd chosen a dog no one else would. Titan stirred, his amber eyes meeting hers, a spark of hope in their depths, a heart beginning to believe in the home she offered. Briarfield slept, its secrets tucked into the night. But in Lila's apartment, a new dawn was rising, fragile, fierce, alive with possibility. Titan's scars told of pain, but his hesitant wag spoke of promise, and Lila's love was a vow to rewrite his story, to stand against whatever haunted him, to give him the life he'd been denied. The world beyond could wait. Tomorrow would bring answers, challenges, light. But here, in the quiet, a German shepherd and a woman were building something unbreakable, a home born of second chances. The Briarfield dawn painted Lila Morrow's apartment in soft pinks, its light filtering through lace curtains to warm the hardwood where Titan rested. The German shepherd lay on his blanket, his black and tan fur smoother now, his scars less stark against the glow of a home he was beginning to claim. His amber eyes followed the sway of a fern in the breeze, his ears twitching at the hum of a waking town, but a tension lingered in his frame, a shadow from 4 years of survival, of cages and cruelty that Ironwood's walls couldn't erase. Yet, in Lila's presence, that shadow softened, her love a tide smoothing the edges of his fear. Lila knelt nearby, her chestnut hair loose, her hazel eyes bright with quiet pride as she set a bowl of water beside Titan's blanket. She'd woken early, her night haunted by the car's shadow, Titan's snarl, a past she couldn't yet name. But morning brought resolve, her heart tethered to the dog whose trust grew in small, radiant steps. "Hey, big guy," she said, her voice a melody of patience, her smile a bridge across his guarded heart. Titan's tail flicked, a hesitant wag, his nose nudging the bowl before drinking, a choice to stay, to believe, even if just for now. The apartment hummed with life, steam from brewing coffee, the rustle of Lila's clinic notes, the distant chirp of Briarfield sparrows. Titan rose, his massive frame stretching, his paws silent as he circled the room, sniffing corners he'd avoided days before. Lila watched, her breath catching when he paused by the couch, his eyes meeting hers, a question in their amber depths. She offered a treat, her hand steady, and Titan took it gently, his warmth brushing her fingers, a trust budding like spring after winter, fragile but fierce. Briarfield stirred outside, its streets a tapestry of routine, kids on bikes, vendors at the market, but Lila's world was here, in Titan's cautious steps, his softening gaze. She sat cross-legged, her phone buzzing with a text from Sam. Found Titan's intake file, stray near old warehouse district, signs of abuse, maybe fights, no leads on owners. Lila's stomach twisted, her mind flashing to Titan's scars, his fear of the car, a puzzle taking shape. She typed back, "Keep digging. Anything on that district?" Sam's reply was quick. "Sketchy area. Shut down ops. Rumors of dog rings. Be careful." Lila's eyes darted to Titan, now lying by the window, his body tense as a delivery truck rumbled past. His whine was low, his hackles rising, a memory stirring that his growl couldn't bury. She moved closer, her voice a lifeline. "You're safe, Titan. That's not your world anymore." He relaxed, his head lowering, but his eyes stayed on the street, a dog haunted by ghosts she vowed to face. Lila grabbed a leash, her heart set on progress. "Let's try a walk," she said, her smile bright, her fear tucked away for his sake. The park was a short stroll, Briarfield's oaks casting dappled shade, their leaves a carpet of gold. Titan hesitated at the door, his body stiff, but Lila's calm, her hand loose on the leash, her hum soft, coaxed him forward. His paws touched grass, his nose twitching at scents of earth and freedom, his tail wagging faintly as children laughed nearby. Lila's heart lifted, her voice encouraging. "See, big guy? It's okay." But a jogger's shout, sharp, sudden, sent Titan crouching, a growl rumbling, his eyes wild with panic. Lila knelt, her hand near, her voice steady. "I'm here, Titan. You're not alone." The growl faded, Titan's tremble easing, his amber eyes locking on Lila's, a trust rekindled in the chaos. She led him home, her steps slow, her heart heavy with his fear, but light with his choice to follow. Inside, Titan sank to his blanket, his sigh deep, his warmth a gift as Lila sat beside him, her fingers tracing the air above his scars. "We'll face it together," she whispered, her vow a shield, her love a map to a future he could claim. She texted her clinic's vet, Dr. Ellis. "Titan's got trauma, maybe fighting, need advice." Ellis replied, "Slow exposure, safe space, he's lucky to have you." Evening draped Briarfield in twilight, the apartment a cocoon of quiet hope. Lila cooked stew, its aroma drawing Titan closer, his nose nudging her leg, a bold step, a spark of connection. She laughed, offering a bite, her hazel eyes shining when he took it, his tail wagging freely, a dance of joy that felt like victory. "That's my boy," she said, her voice thick, her heart full of a dog who was rewriting his story one moment at a time. They sat by the window, Lila reading, Titan's head resting near her knee, his breath steady, a peace neither had known. But dusk brought unease. A car parked across the street, its engine idling, its windows dark, a shadow mirroring the night before. Titan's head snapped up, his growl sharp, his body lunging to the glass, his bark a roar that shook the walls. Lila's pulse spiked, her hand gripping her phone, her eyes catching the car's slow roll before it vanished. Titan's hackles stayed high, his whine a mix of fear and fury, his scars seeming to pulse with a past that refused to stay buried. "Titan, easy," she said, her voice calm despite her racing heart, her hand hovering, grounding him. He turned to her, his amber eyes wild but trusting, his body trembling as he pressed against her leg, a dog seeking refuge in a storm only he could see. Lila's mind raced, the warehouse district, Sam's warning, Titan's fear, a thread tying him to a darkness she hadn't grasped. She locked the door, her resolve hardening, her love a fortress. "No one's hurting you again," she said, her voice fierce, her hand finally resting on his head, a touch he didn't flinch from. Titan's whine softened, his warmth a vow, a bond forging through fear. Lila sat awake, the apartment silent but for Titan's breaths, her notebook open to questions. Who's watching? What scared him? She searched online, her fingers trembling, articles on Briarfield's old warehouses, raids on dogfighting rings, shadows of cruelty that lingered in the town's underbelly. Titan stirred, his head lifting, his eyes meeting hers, a plea for safety, a spark of hope. Lila smiled, her heart steady, her voice a whisper. "We're stronger than they know, big guy." He settled, his tail flicking, a trust growing like roots, deep and sure. Briarfield's night held its secrets, its streets a maze of light and shadow, but in Lila's apartment a fire burned, a vet tech's courage, a German shepherd's heart, a story rewriting itself with every wag, every glance. The car's shadow was a warning, a challenge Lila wouldn't flee, her love for Titan a beacon guiding them forward. Tomorrow would bring answers, risks, a path uncharted, but tonight they were enough. Two souls finding solace, a home building in the quiet, a miracle born of a dog's second chance. The Briarfield morning shimmered with frost, its chill seeping through the cracks of Lila Morrow's apartment, where sunlight danced across the hardwood, warming Titan's black and tan fur. The German shepherd lay stretched on his blanket, his amber eyes softer now, tracing the flicker of a candle Lila had lit to ease the dawn's bite. His scars, once stark, seemed to fade in the glow of a home he was beginning to trust, though the echo of 4 years, cages, cruelty, a world that turned away, lingered in his cautious pauses. Yet Lila's presence was a balm, her love a melody coaxing his heart from its shadows, note by gentle note. Lila sat at the kitchen table, her chestnut hair tied back, her hazel eyes scanning a laptop screen filled with articles. Briarfield's warehouse district, shuttered dogfighting rings, whispers of a past that matched Titan's fear. She'd barely slept, the car's shadow haunting her, Titan's growl a warning she couldn't ignore. But morning brought clarity, her heart tethered to the dog who'd chosen her hand, her voice, her home. "Hey, big guy," she said, her smile bright as she offered a piece of toast. Titan's tail wagged, his nose nudging her fingers, a trust blooming like dawn after a long night. The apartment hummed with quiet life, steam from a teapot, the rustle of Lila's clinic coat, the distant hum of Briarfield's waking streets. Titan rose, his massive frame steadier now, his paws tracing a path to the window, his nose twitching at the scent of snow. Lila watched, her breath catching when he turned to her, his amber eyes holding a spark of curiosity, a dog daring to explore a world beyond fear. She knelt, her hand open, her voice a vow. "You're doing so good, Titan. We're in this together." His tail thumped, a rhythm of hope, his warmth a gift she cherished. Briarfield bustled outside, delivery trucks rumbling, church bells chiming. But Lila's focus was Titan, his small victories a tapestry of progress. She clipped on his leash, her heart set on another walk, her courage a shield against the car's echo. The park was quiet, its oaks bare, their branches a lace against the sky. Titan stepped forward, his head high, his tail wagging as he sniffed the frost. But a dog's bark, sharp nearby, sent him crouching, a growl rumbling, his eyes wild with memory. Lila knelt, her voice steady. "It's okay, Titan. Just a friend saying hi." His growl softened, his body easing, his trust in her a flame that flickered but held. Back home, Titan curled on his blanket, his sigh deep, his amber eyes meeting Lila's. A thank you unspoken but felt. She sat beside him, her notebook open, her pen tracing questions. Dogfights. Who's watching us? Her phone buzzed. Sam, her clinic colleague. Talked to a cop friend. Warehouse district had raids years ago, some guy still around. Titan's scars match fighting dogs, watch your back. Lila's pulse quickened, her eyes darting to Titan, his scars a map she now read with dread, a past not just cruel, but alive, circling closer. Midday brought a call from Dr. Ellis, the clinic's vet, her voice calm but firm. Titan needs routine, safe spaces, no pressure, but if he's tied to those rings, stress could trigger him. You're his anchor, Lila. Lila nodded, her resolve hardening, her love a fortress. She set up a corner for Titan, blankets, a chew toy, a view of the park, her hands trembling with purpose. "This is yours," she said, her smile warm as he sniffed the space, his tail wagging, a dog claiming a piece of home, his trust, a victory carved from fear. Evening fell, Briarfield's skyline glowing amber, the apartment a haven of light and warmth. Lila cooked rice, its scent drawing Titan closer, his nose nudging her leg, his boldness a spark that lit her heart. She laughed, offering a bite, her hazel eyes shining when he took it, his tail wagging freely, a dance of joy that felt like healing. "You're my brave boy," she said, her voice thick, her hand resting lightly on his head, a touch he leaned into, a trust deepening like roots in fertile soil. They sat by the fire, Lila humming, Titan's head near her knee, his breath steady, a peace they'd fought for. But dusk brought a chill. A car parked 2 streets over, its engine idling, its shadow caught in the glow of a street lamp. Titan stirred, his ears pricking, his growl low but sharp, his body tensing as he moved to the window, his bark a warning that shook the glass. Lila's heart leapt, her phone slipping from her hand, her eyes catching the car's slow crawl before it vanished. Titan's hackles stayed high, his whine a mix of fear and defiance, his scars pulsing with a past that refused to fade. "Titan, easy," she said, her voice calm despite her fear, her hand near, grounding him. He turned to her, his amber eyes wild but trusting, his body pressing against her, a dog seeking shelter in a storm she now felt too. Lila's mind raced. Sam's warning, the warehouse raids, Titan's fear, a thread tying him to a darkness that wasn't gone. She locked the windows, her fingers trembling, her voice fierce. "They won't touch you, Titan. I promise." His whine softened, his warmth a vow, a bond forging through the threat, a heart choosing her light over his shadows. Lila sat awake, the apartment silent but for Titan's breaths, her laptop open to maps of Briarfield's outskirts. A countryside property her aunt had left her, a place of fields and quiet, far from the town's shadows. The car's presence was no coincidence, its threat a weight she couldn't ignore. She texted Sam, "Need a favor, check that car's plates if it shows again." Sam's reply was swift, "On it, you okay?" Lila glanced at Titan, now curled on his blanket, his amber eyes half closed, a trust glowing in their depths. "We're okay," she typed, her heart steady, her love a beacon. The idea took root, a fresh start, away from the car, the memories, the fear. The countryside beckoned, its promise of peace a gift for Titan, a chance to heal where shadows couldn't reach. Lila's aunt's cabin was small, its fields wide, its silence a canvas for their future. She looked at Titan, her voice a whisper. "What do you think, big guy? A new adventure?" His tail flicked, a spark of hope, a dog sensing her courage, her vow to protect him, to rewrite his story. Briarfield's night wrapped the apartment in quiet, its streets a maze of light and danger, but inside a fire burned. Lila's resolve, Titan's heart, a bond growing stronger with every glance, every wag. The car's shadow was a challenge, a past clawing back, but Lila's love was fiercer, her heart set on a path uncharted. Tomorrow would bring plans, risks, a journey to safety, but tonight they were enough. two souls finding strength, a home forging in the face of fear, a miracle born of a German shepherd's second chance. The Briarfield dawn glowed with a fragile hope, its light spilling through Lila Morrow's apartment windows, painting the hardwood in hues of amber where Titan lay. The German shepherd's massive frame stretched across his blanket, his black and tan fur catching the sun, his scars softened by the warmth of a home he was learning to love. His amber eyes followed the flutter of a curtain, his ears twitching at the distant hum of Briarfield's morning, but a quiet strength bloomed in his gaze, a spark kindled by Lila's patience, her voice a melody that drowned out the echoes of 4 years in Ironwood's cages. Lila sat at the kitchen counter, her chestnut hair loose, her hazel eyes tracing a map on her laptop. Willow Creek, a countryside haven 2 hours from Briarfield, where her aunt's cabin stood amid fields of clover and pine. The car's shadow lingered in her mind, Titan's growl a warning of a past that wouldn't stay buried, and the cabin beckoned, a sanctuary where fear couldn't follow, a fresh start for a dog whose heart deserved peace. She glanced at Titan, her smile trembling with resolve, her heart tethered to the German shepherd who'd chosen her light over his darkness. The apartment hummed with purpose, steam from brewing tea, the rustle of Lila's packed bags, the soft clink of Titan's bowl as she filled it with kibble. Titan rose, his paws silent, his nose nudging her hand, a trust glowing brighter each day. "Hey, big guy," she said, her voice a lullaby, her fingers brushing his fur, a touch he leaned into, a victory etched in his wag. He ate, his tail thumping, his amber eyes meeting hers, a dog daring to believe in the home she offered, even as shadows loomed beyond the walls. Briarfield stirred outside, school buses rumbling, market stalls opening. But Lila's world was Titan, his progress a tapestry of small miracles. She knelt beside him, her notebook open to plans. Cabin, safe space, open fields, no cars. Her phone buzzed. Sam, her clinic colleague. "No plates yet, but cop friend says warehouse district's active again. Low-key fight, same crew, stay sharp." Lila's stomach tightened, her eyes darting to Titan, his scars a map of cruelty she now feared was hunting him. She texted back, "Leaving town soon. Keep me posted." Her resolve hardened, her love a shield for the dog curling closer on his blanket. Mid-morning brought a call from Mrs. Clara Tate, her neighbour's voice hesitant. "Lila, saw that car again. Dark sedan parked down the block last night. Didn't like its vibe." Lila's pulse spiked, her hand gripping the phone, her eyes catching Titan's sudden tension, his ears pricking as if sensing her unease. "Thanks, Clara," she said, her voice steady despite the chill in her bones. "I'm handling it." She hung up, her mind racing. The car wasn't random. It was a thread tied to Titan's past, a threat she couldn't outrun in Briarfield. Lila grabbed Titan's leash, her heart set on one last walk before their escape, her courage a beacon for them both. The park was crisp, its frost sparkling under oaks, its paths quiet but for a jogger's hum. Titan stepped forward, his head high, his tail wagging as he sniffed the air, but a truck's backfire, loud, sharp, sent him crouching, a growl rumbling, his eyes wild with panic. Lila knelt, her voice a lifeline. "You're safe, Titan. I've got you." His growl faded, his body easing, his trust in her a flame that burned brighter, a dog choosing home over fear. Back in the apartment, Titan sank to his blanket, his sigh deep, his amber eyes soft with gratitude. Lila sat beside him, her hand resting near, her voice weaving stories of Willow Creek, meadows, streams, a cabin where they'd heal. "No shadows there," she said, her smile warm, her love a promise. Titan's tail flicked, a spark of hope, his warmth a gift as Lila packed. A blanket for him, her clinic books, a photo of her aunt's cabin, its porch a dream of safety. Her heart lifted, her fear tempered by the dog whose trust was her anchor. Evening fell. Briarfield's skyline glowing violet, the apartment a fortress of quiet resolve. Lila cooked salmon, its scent drawing Titan close, his nose nudging her leg, his boldness a spark that lit her soul. She laughed, offering a bite, her hazel eyes shining when he took it, his tail wagging freely, a dance of joy that felt like redemption. "We're almost there, big guy," she said, her voice thick, her hand stroking his fur, a touch he welcomed, a trust deepening like a river finding its course. They sat by the fire, Lila planning, Titan's head on her knee, his breath steady, a piece they'd carved from chaos. But dusk brought a chill. A car's headlights flashed across the street, slow, deliberate, its engine a low growl that pierced the night. Titan lunged to the window, his bark a roar, his hackles high, his scars pulsing with a fear that shook the room. Lila's heart raced, her phone in hand, her eyes catching the sedan's shadow before it sped away. Titan's whine was raw, his body trembling, his amber eyes wild with a past that clawed at their peace. "Titan, come back," she said, her voice calm but fierce, her hand outstretched, grounding him. He turned to her, his eyes searching, his body pressing against her, a dog seeking refuge in a storm she now shared. Lila's mind spun. Sam's warning, Clara's call, the warehouse's shadow, a danger tied to Titan, to fights, to men who hadn't forgotten. She locked the door, her fingers trembling, her voice a vow. "They won't touch you, Titan, we're leaving." His whine softened, his warmth a promise, a bond forging through the threat, a heart choosing her courage over his terror. Lila sat awake, the apartment silent but for Titan's breaths, her laptop open to directions to Willow Creek, her heart set on escape. She emailed Dr. Ellis. "Taking Titan to the cabin, safer there. Cover my shifts?" Ellis replied, "Go, he needs you, stay safe." Lila glanced at Titan, now curled on his blanket, his amber eyes half closed, a trust glowing in their depths. "We're going home," she whispered, her resolve a fire, her love a map to a future free of fear. Briarfield's night held its dangers, its streets a web of light and shadow, but in Lila's apartment a dream took root, a cabin, a field, a life where Titan could run without looking back. The car's threat was a chain she'd break, her courage a gift for the dog whose heart beat stronger with every wag, every glance. She packed the last bag, her hand resting on Titan's head, his sigh a melody of hope. "Tomorrow, big guy," she said, her smile fierce, her heart full of a German shepherd whose scars told of pain but whose trust spoke of miracles. The world beyond churned. Sam's search, the warehouse's secrets, a past clawing close, but here in the quiet, Lila and Titan were a force, their bond a light no darkness could dim. Willow Creek waited, its promise a canvas for their healing, a sanctuary where love would triumph. Tonight they rested, two souls forging a path uncharted, a home born of a vet tech's vow and a dog's second chance. The Briarfield dawn broke with a restless hush, its light barely piercing the fog that cloaked Lila Morrow's apartment, where boxes and dreams waited by the door. Titan stood near, his black and tan fur catching the grey glow, his amber eyes fixed on Lila, a German shepherd whose heart carried 4 years of scars but pulsed with a trust she'd kindled. The car's shadow, its engine a growl in the night, had sealed her choice. Willow Creek, a countryside haven, was their escape, a place where Titan's past couldn't reach. Lila's chestnut hair fell loose, her hazel eyes bright with a courage born of love, her hands steady as she packed the last of their life into her beat-up hatchback. "Hey, big guy," she said, her voice a melody of hope, her smile a beacon as she clipped Titan's leash. His tail wagged, a hesitant rhythm, his massive frame tense but willing, his trust in her a flame that flickered through fear. The apartment felt smaller now, its walls a memory of growls and wags, a cocoon they'd outgrown. Lila knelt, her hand brushing his fur, her whisper fierce. "We're going somewhere safe, Titan, just you and me." His nose nudged her, a vow unspoken, a dog choosing her light over the darkness that hunted him. The drive to Willow Creek was a pilgrimage, Briarfield streets fading into highways lined with pines, their needles silvered by mist. Titan curled in the back seat, his amber eyes tracing the blur of the world, his breaths uneven but calmer in Lila's presence. She hummed a tune, soft, familiar, a lullaby from her childhood, her voice a tether keeping his fear at bay. The radio stayed off, her focus on Titan, on the cabin ahead, its promise of fields and silence a canvas for their healing. "Almost there," she said, her glance in the rear view catching his gaze, a spark of hope in its depths. Willow Creek unfolded like a dream, meadows stretching wide, a creek glinting under a pale sun, the cabin a weathered jewel of wood and stone nestled among clover. Lila parked, her heart lifting as she opened Titan's door, her voice bright. "Welcome home, big guy." He stepped out, his paws sinking into grass, his nose twitching at sense of earth and freedom, his tail wagging faintly, a dog tasting a world without cages, without shadows. The cabin's porch creaked under Lila's boots, its windows dusty but warm, a sanctuary her aunt had left her, now Titan's haven. Inside, the air smelled of pine and thyme, its rooms sparse but alive with possibility, a fireplace, a quilted couch, a corner for Titan's blanket. Lila set his bowl down, her hands trembling with joy as he explored, his claws clicking on wood, his amber eyes wide with curiosity. "This is ours," she said, her smile radiant, her love a map for his heart. Titan paused by the window, his body tensing at a bird's flutter, but Lila's hum eased him, his tail thumping, a trust growing like roots in fertile soil. Briarfield's echo lingered, Sam's warning, the car's threat, a past tied to warehouses and cruelty. But Willow Creek was a shield, its quiet a balm for Titan's scars. Lila unpacked, her clinic books stacked, a photo of her aunt framed, her mind on Titan's progress. He followed her, his presence steady, his nose nudging her leg, a boldness that lit her soul. She offered a treat, her hazel eyes shining when he took it, his wag a dance of joy, a dog daring to claim this place, this life, this love. Midday brought exploration, the meadow a canvas for their steps. Titan bounded ahead, his paws kicking clover, his bark low but playful, a spark of the puppy he'd been before Ironwood's chains. Lila laughed, her voice ringing, her heart full as he chased a leaf, his amber eyes bright with a freedom she'd fought for. "That's my boy," she said, her hands clapping, her love a vow that echoed through the pines. But a distant engine, faint, fleeting, stirred Titan's ears, his body tensing, a whine rising as he scanned the horizon, a memory clawing back. Lila knelt, her voice steady. "It's nothing, Titan, you're safe here." His whine softened, his eyes searching hers, a trust tested but held, his body pressing against her, a dog choosing her courage over his fear. She led him back, her pulse quickening, her eyes catching a glint on the road. A car, too far to know, gone in a moment. Willow Creek was peace, but Briarfield's shadows were long, their threat a whisper she couldn't ignore. Her phone buzzed. "Sam. Plates didn't match locals, still digging, you good?" Lila typed. "Safe for now. Keep looking." Evening draped the cabin in twilight, its fireplace crackling, its warmth wrapping Lila and Titan in a cocoon of hope. She cooked stew, its scent drawing Titan close, his nose nudging her knee, his boldness a spark that warmed her heart. "You're home," she said, offering a bite, her hazel eyes glistening when he took it, his tail wagging freely, a dance of redemption that felt like miracles. They sat by the fire, Lila reading, Titan's head on her lap, his breaths deep, a piece they'd carved from fear's sharp edges. But night brought unease, a rustle beyond the meadow, a shadow shifting under pines, too vague for certainty but sharp enough to stir Titan. He rose, his growl low, his hackles high, his amber eyes locked on the window, his bark a warning that shook the cabin's quiet. Lila's heart leapt, her hand gripping a flashlight, her eyes scanning the dark. Nothing, or so it seemed, but Titan's fear was no lie. "Easy, big guy," she said, her voice calm despite her pulse, her hand near, grounding him. His growl faded, his body trembling, a dog haunted by ghosts she now feared were real. Lila locked the door, her fingers steady, her voice fierce. "No one's taking you, Titan, we're stronger than they know." His eyes met hers, wild but trusting, his warmth a vow as he pressed against her, a bond forging through the night's chill. Her mind raced. Sam's text, the warehouse's shadow, a car that followed too close, a danger tied to Titan, to fights, to men who hadn't let go. She grabbed her phone, texting Dr. Ellis. "Settled in cabin, something's off. Advice?" Ellis replied, "Trust his instincts, stay vigilant. He's got you." The cabin held its breath, its walls a fortress, its silence alive with promise. Lila sat awake, Titan curled by her side, his amber eyes half closed, a trust glowing in their depths. She opened her notebook, her pen tracing plans. Secure cabin, train Titan, find answers. Willow Creek was their sanctuary, but safety was a fight, a vow she'd keep for the dog whose heart beat stronger with every wag, every glance. "We'll make it," she whispered, her smile fierce, her hand resting on his fur, a touch he welcomed, a home he was beginning to believe in. Briarfield's shadows loomed, its secrets a tide creeping closer, but in Willow Creek a light burned, Lila's courage, Titan's heart, a bond unyielding in the face of fear. The meadow waited, its promise of freedom a gift for Titan, a chance to run where ghosts couldn't chase. Tomorrow would bring work, risks, a truth unburied, but tonight they were enough. Two souls forging a sanctuary, a future born of a vet tech's love, and a German shepherd's second chance. The Willow Creek morning shimmered with a gentle frost, its meadows sparkling under a sun that broke through clouds, casting golden rays across the cabin where Lila Morrow and Titan had carved a fragile peace. The German shepherd stood by the porch, his black and tan fur gleaming, his amber eyes tracing a deer's path through the clover, a quiet wonder softening the scars that mapped his past. 4 years of ironwood's cages, of cruelty and fear, lingered in his cautious steps. But Lila's love was a tide washing them away, her presence a song that called him toward a home he was beginning to believe in. Lila stepped onto the porch, her chestnut hair catching the light, her hazel eyes bright with a joy tempered by vigilance. The cabin's wooden walls creaked with warmth, its rooms now theirs, a quilt over the couch, Titan's blanket by the fire, a promise of safety she fought to keep. The night's shadow, the rustle, Titan's growl, hadn't returned, but its echo fueled her resolve, her heart tethered to the dog whose trust was her greatest gift. "Hey, big guy," she said, her voice a melody of hope, her smile a beacon as she tossed a stick. Titan's tail wagged, his bounds light, his bark playful, a spark of the dog he'd been before the world turned cold. The cabin hummed with new rhythms, steam from Lila's coffee, the scratch of her pen on a journal, the rustle of pines beyond the meadow. Titan followed her, his paws silent, his nose nudging her hand, a boldness that lit her soul. She knelt, her fingers brushing his fur, her whisper fierce. "You're home, Titan, no matter what." His amber eyes met hers, a trust glowing deep, a dog choosing her warmth over the ghosts that haunted him. She offered a treat, her heart swelling when he took it, his tail thumping, a dance of joy that felt like redemption. Willow Creek was a sanctuary, its fields a canvas for healing, but Briarfield's shadows lingered. Sam's warnings, the car's threat, a past tied to warehouses and pain. Lila set routines to anchor Titan, morning walks, afternoon rests, evening games, her hands steady as she taught him calm. She strung bells on the gate, their chime a guard against surprises, her love a fortress for the dog whose scars whispered of fights she feared weren't over. Her phone buzzed. Sam. Cop friend traced a sedan, linked to old fight crew. They're quiet but active. Lay low. Lila's pulse quickened, her eyes on Titan, her vow unshaken. Midday brought exploration, the creek a mirror for their steps. Titan splashed through shallows, his bark bright, his bounds free as he chased a ripple, Lila's laughter ringing through the pines. "That's my boy," she called, her hands clapping, her heart full of a dog who ran without looking back. But a twig's snap, sharp, close, froze him, his hackles rising, his growl low as he scanned the trees, a memory clawing through his joy. Lila knelt, her voice steady, It's nothing, Titan, just us. His growl softened, his eyes searching hers, a trust tested but held, his body pressing against her, a choice to stay, to believe. Back at the cabin, Titan curled by the fire, his sigh deep, his amber eyes soft with gratitude. Lila sat beside him, her journal open, her pen tracing progress. Titan ran today, free, happy, but he's still scared. She texted Dr. Ellis. He's thriving, but something's out there. Ideas? Ellis replied. Build his confidence, play, routine. If danger's real, trust him to protect you too. Lila nodded, her resolve afire, her love a map for Titan's heart. She set a toy by his blanket, a rope knotted tight, her smile warm as he sniffed it, his tail flicking, a dog daring to play, to heal. Evening draped Willow Creek in twilight, the cabin's glow a shield against the dark. Lila cooked chili, its scent drawing Titan close, his nose nudging her knee, his boldness a spark that warmed her core. She laughed, offering a bite, her hazel eyes shining when he took it, his tail wagging freely, a dance of redemption that felt like home. We're getting there, she said, her voice thick, her hand stroking his fur, a touch he welcomed, a trust deepening like a river carving stone. They sat by the hearth, Lila humming, Titan's head on her lap, his breath steady, a peace they'd fought for. But night brought a chill, a low rumble beyond the meadow, headlights flickering through pines, too close for comfort. Titan lunged to the window, his bark a roar, his hackles high, his amber eyes wild with a fear that shook the cabin. Lila's heart raced, her flashlight in hand, her eyes catching a sedan's glint before it vanished down the dirt road. Titan's whine was raw, his body trembling, his scars pulsing with a past that refused to fade. Titan, come back, she said, her voice calm but fierce, her hand outstretched, grounding him. He turned to her, his eyes searching, his body pressing against her, a dog seeking refuge in a storm she now faced too. Lila's mind spun. Sam's text, the fight crew, a car that tracked them to Willow Creek. A danger tied to Titan, to cruelty, to men who wouldn't let go. She barred the door, her fingers trembling, her voice a vow. They won't touch you, Titan. We're safe here. His whine softened, his warmth a promise, a bond forging through the threat, a heart choosing her courage over his terror. Lila sat awake, the cabin silent but for Titan's breaths, her phone open to a map of Willow Creek, trails, neighbors, escape routes. Her heart set on defense. She texted Sam. Car followed us. Here, need help. Sam's reply was swift. Calling cop friend. Stay put. I'm coming tomorrow. Lila glanced at Titan, now curled by her side, his amber eyes half closed, a trust glowing in their depths. We'll fight for this, she whispered, her smile fierce, her hand resting on his fur, a touch he leaned into, a home he was beginning to claim. The meadow held its secrets, its pines a guard against the night, but in the cabin, a light burned. Lila's resolve, Titan's heart, a bond unyielding in the face of fear. She opened her journal, her pen tracing plans. Train Titan, alert, not attack, find their motive. Willow Creek was their haven, but safety was a battle, a vow she'd keep for the dog whose wag was her victory, whose glance was her strength. Tomorrow, big guy, she said, her voice steady, her heart full of a German shepherd whose scars told of pain, but whose trust spoke of miracles. The world beyond churned. Sam searched the crew's shadow, a past closing in. But here, in the quiet, Lila and Titan were a force, their love a flame no darkness could snuff. The creek whispered, its promise of freedom a gift for Titan, a chance to heal where ghosts couldn't reach. Tomorrow would bring allies, risks, a truth unburied, but tonight they rested, two souls forging a sanctuary, a future born of a vet tech's courage and a dog's second chance. The Willow Creek morning bloomed with a crisp radiance, sunlight weaving through pines to dapple the meadow in gold, where the cabin stood as a beacon of hope for Lila Morrow and Titan. The German shepherd bounded across the grass, his black and tan fur shimmering, his amber eyes bright with a joy that softened the scars of 4 years in Ironwood's cages. His bounds were freer now, his barks lighter, a dog whose heart was knitting itself whole under Lila's love, a love that shone like dawn, chasing away the shadows of a past that still hunted them. Lila stood on the porch, her chestnut hair loose, her hazel eyes tracing Titan's play, her heart swelling with pride tempered by vigilance. The cabin's warmth wrapped them, its hearth aglow, Titan's blanket a throne, a sanctuary she'd fortified with bells and locks. Last night's headlights, Titan's roar, had sharpened her resolve, her love a shield for the dog whose trust was her anchor. "Hey, big guy," she said, her voice a melody of courage, her smile a vow as she tossed a rope toy. Titan leapt, his jaws gentle, his tail wagging furiously, a dance of redemption, a spark of the dog he was meant to be. The cabin hummed with purpose. Steam from Lila's tea, the scratch of her journal, the creek's whisper beyond the meadow. Titan followed her inside, his paws steady, his nose nudging her hand, a boldness that lit her soul. She knelt, her fingers brushing his fur, her whisper fierce. "You're my hero, Titan. We're unstoppable." His amber eyes met hers, a trust deep and sure, a dog choosing her light over the ghosts that lingered. She offered a biscuit, her heart lifting when he took it, his wag a rhythm of hope, a victory carved from fear's sharp edges. Willow Creek was a haven, its fields a canvas for healing, but Briarfield's shadows stretched long, Sam's warning, the sedan's threat, a past tied to cruelty and fights. Lila trained Titan daily, commands to sit, to stay, to alert, her hands gentle but firm, her voice a guide for his strength. She checked the gate's bells, her eyes scanning the road, her heart set on safety. Her phone buzzed. Sam, en route. "Be there by noon. Cop friends digging into crew. Hold tight." Lila's pulse quickened, her eyes on Titan, her vow unshaken. "We've got this," she texted back, her love a fortress. Midday brought Sam's arrival, his pickup rattling down the dirt road, his grin wide as he stepped out, a bag of treats in hand. "This place suits you," he said, his eyes softening at Titan, who stood tall, his tail wagging, his growl absent, a sign of trust that warmed Lila's heart. Sam knelt, offering a treat, his voice low. "You're a fighter, huh, boy?" Titan took it, his amber eyes calm, a dog daring to welcome a friend. Lila led them inside, her voice steady as she shared the sedan's shadow, her fear tempered by Titan's presence. Sam's news was grim. His cop friend linked the sedan to a man named Vance, a figure from Briarfield's old fight rings, known for reclaiming dogs he'd lost. He's slippery, Sam said, his jaw tight. Might think Titan's his. Lila's stomach twisted, her eyes darting to Titan, now curled by the fire, his scars a map of Vance's cruelty. He's mine, she said, her voice fierce, her hand resting on Titan's head, a touch he leaned into, a bond no one could break. Sam nodded, his promise clear. I'll keep digging. You're not alone. Evening draped Willow Creek in a velvet hush, the cabin's glow a shield against the dark. Lila cooked trout, its scent drawing Titan close, his nose nudging her knee, his boldness a spark that lit her core. She laughed, offering a bite, her hazel eyes shining when he took it, his tail wagging freely, a dance of joy that felt like home. We're building something, she said, her voice thick, her hand stroking his fur, a trust deepening like roots in stone. They sat by the hearth, Lila planning, Titan's head on her lap, his breaths deep, a peace they'd fought for. But dusk brought a storm, a crunch of gravel beyond the pines, headlights slicing through the meadow closer than before. Titan lunged to the door, his bark a thunder, his hackles high, his amber eyes wild with a fear that shook the cabin's quiet. Lila's heart raced, her flashlight in hand, her eyes catching a sedan glint. Slow, deliberate, stopping at the gate, a figure stepped out, shadowed, his voice low, calling, "Dog's mine, hand him over." Titan's roar drowned it, his body guarding Lila, his scars pulsing with a past that stood before them. Lila's voice cut through, calm but fierce. He's home. Leave or I call the law. Her hand gripped her phone, Sam's number ready, her other hand near Titan, grounding him. The man laughed, cold and sharp, his silhouette menacing. Vance, don't forget his dogs. Titan's growl deepened, his body tense but steady, a dog protecting his heart, his home. Lila's pulse thundered, her eyes locked on the man, her love afire. "Go!" she said, her voice steel, her flashlight blinding him. He hesitated, then retreated, the sedan peeling away, its threat a wound in the night. Titan's whine was raw, his body trembling, his amber eyes searching hers, a plea for safety, a trust unbroken. Lila knelt, her arms open, her voice a vow. "You're mine, Titan. No one's taking you." He pressed against her, his warmth a promise, a bond forging through the fear, a heart choosing her courage over his terror. She barred the door, her fingers trembling, her mind racing. Vance, the fights, a man who saw Titan as property, not a soul. Her phone buzzed. "Sam. Heard you. Cops alerted. I'm staying nearby." The cabin held its breath, its walls a fortress, its silence alive with defiance. Lila sat awake, Titan curled by her side, his amber eyes half closed, a trust glowing in their depths. She opened her journal, her pen tracing plans. Secure meadow, train Titan, guard, not fight, end this. Willow Creek was their sanctuary, but peace was a battle, a vow she'd keep for the dog whose wag was her victory, whose glance was her strength. "We'll win," she whispered, her smile fierce, her hand resting on his fur, a touch he welcomed, a home he claimed. Briarfield's shadows loomed, its cruelty a tide creeping closer, but in Willow Creek a light burned, Lila's resolve, Titan's heart, a bond unyielding in the face of danger. The meadow stood guard, its promise of freedom a gift for Titan, a chance to heal where ghosts could be faced. Tomorrow would bring allies, plans, a truth unburied, but tonight they rested. Two souls forging a future, a sanctuary born of a vet tech's courage and a German shepherd's second chance. The Willow Creek dawn glowed with a quiet defiance, its lights spilling over meadows to warm the cabin where Lila Morrow and Titan had forged a sanctuary. The German shepherd stood by the creek, his black and tan fur catching the sun, his amber eyes tracing a heron's flight, a spark of peace softening the scars that told of 4 years in Ironwood's cages. His bounds were bolder now, his barks brighter, a dog whose heart bloomed under Lila's love. A love that burned like a beacon, holding back the shadows of a past that refused to fade. Vance's voice, "Dog's mine," echoed in her mind, but Titan's trust was her strength, a vow she'd fight to keep. Lila leaned against the porch rail, her chestnut hair tied back, her hazel eyes sharp with resolve, her heart tethered to the dog who'd faced fear with her. The cabin's walls hummed with life, its hearth aglow, Titan's toy by the door, a fortress she'd strengthened with Sam's help. Last night's confrontation had lit a fire in her, her love a shield for the German shepherd, whose wag was her victory, whose glance was her courage. "Hey, big guy," she said, her voice a melody of hope, her smile fierce as she tossed a ball. Titan leapt, his jaws gentle, his tail wagging, a dance of joy, a dog claiming his home. The meadow hummed with morning, dew on clover, the creek's whisper, the rustle of pines guarding their peace. Titan followed Lila inside, his paws steady, his nose nudging her hand, a boldness that warmed her core. She knelt, her fingers brushing his fur, her whisper a vow. "We're stronger than they know, Titan." His amber eyes met hers, a trust deep and unshakable, a dog choosing her light over the ghosts that hunted him. She offered a treat, her heart swelling when he took it, his wag a rhythm of redemption, a victory etched in love. Willow Creek was their haven, its fields a canvas for healing, but Briarfield's shadows loomed, Vance's threat, the fight crew's reach, a past tied to cruelty and chains. Lila trained Titan with focus, commands to guard, to alert, her hands gentle but sure, her voice a guide for his strength. She checked the gate's bells, her eyes scanning the road, her heart set on defense. Her phone buzzed. Sam, now camped nearby. "Cops found Vance's hideout. Small crew watching you. Plan tonight?" Lila's pulse quickened, her eyes on Titan, her vow fierce. "Tonight," she texted, her love a fortress. Midday brought Sam to the cabin, his pickup parked discreetly, his face grim but kind as he shared news. "Vance wants Titan back, thinks he's a fighter worth coin. Cops can't move without proof." Lila's stomach twisted, her eyes darting to Titan, now sprawled by the fire, his scars a map of Vance's greed. "He's family," she said, her voice steel, her hand resting on Titan's head, a touch he leaned into, a bond no one could break. Sam nodded, his plan clear. "We bait Vance, draw him here, cops waiting, you and Titan stay safe." Lila agreed, her courage afire, her heart full of a dog who'd fight for her too. Evening draped Willow Creek in a velvet hush, the cabin's glow a shield against the dark. Lila cooked venison, its scent drawing Titan close, his nose nudging her knee, his boldness a spark that lit her soul. She laughed, offering a bite, her hazel eyes shining when he took it, his tail wagging freely, a dance of joy that felt like miracles. "We're ready," she said, her voice thick, her hand stroking his fur, a trust deepening like a river finding stone. They sat by the hearth, Lila planning, Titan's head on her lap, his breaths deep, a piece they'd carved from fear. But dusk brought tension, a low hum beyond the pines, tires crunching closer, headlights flickering through the meadow. Titan rose, his growl sharp, his hackles high, his amber eyes locked on the door, his bark a warning that shook the cabin's quiet. Lila's heart raced, her phone in hand, Sam's signal sent, "They're here." She grabbed a flashlight, her voice calm but fierce. "Titan, stay with me." His growl steadied, his body guarding her, a dog whose fear had turned to strength, his scars a badge of survival, not defeat. The gate's bells rang, harsh and clear, a sedan stopping short, two figures stepping out, Vance, his face shadowed, and another, hulking, silent. "Give me the dog," Vance called, his voice cold, his hand on a leash that made Titan's growl thunder. Lila stepped to the porch, her flashlight blinding them, her voice steel. "He's home. You're done." Titan stood beside her, his bark a roar, his amber eyes fierce with a loyalty that burned brighter than fear. Vance laughed, stepping closer, but Lila's hand signaled Titan, stay, her trust in him a vow, her love a wall no threat could breach. Sam's truck revved nearby, headlights flaring, cops trailing close, and their sirens a distant hum growing louder. Vance froze, his eyes darting, his partner cursing as they backed to the car. "This ain't over," Vance spat, but Lila's voice cut through, unwavering. "It is for Titan." His eyes met hers, wild but trusting, his body steady, a dog protecting his heart, his home. The sedan peeled away, cops in pursuit, Sam's shout of promise, "We've got them." But Lila's world was Titan, his warmth against her, his whine soft, a victory won in the meadow's embrace. Lila knelt, her arms open, her voice a sob. "You did it, Titan, you're safe." He pressed against her, his tail wagging, his amber eyes glowing with a trust that felt eternal, a bond forged through the night's fire. She led him inside, her hands trembling, her heart full. Vance's threat was real, but their strength was greater, their love a light no darkness could dim. Sam returned, his grin wide, his news a balm. Cops nabbed Vance, evidence in his car, he's done. Lila's tears fell, her hand on Titan, her voice thick. "Thank you." The cabin held its peace, its walls a fortress, its silence alive with triumph. Lila sat awake, Titan curled by her side, his amber eyes half closed, a trust shining in their depths. She opened her journal, her pen tracing victory. "Titan stood with me, brave, mine. We're free." Willow Creek was their sanctuary, its meadow a gift for a dog whose wag was her joy, whose glance was her courage. "We won," she whispered, her smile radiant, her hand resting on his fur, a touch he welcomed, a home he claimed forever. Briarfield's shadows faded, its cruelty a tide turned back, but in Willow Creek a light burned. Lila's resolve, Titan's heart, a bond unyielding in the face of fear. The creek whispered, its promise of freedom a truth for Titan, a chance to heal where ghosts were gone. Tomorrow would bring rest, dreams, a future uncharted, But tonight, they thrived. Two souls forging a life, a sanctuary born of a vet tech's courage and a German shepherd's second chance. The Willow Creek spring unfurled like a promise kept, its meadows bursting with wildflowers, their colours a tapestry under a sky that stretched endless and blue. The cabin stood proud, its wooden walls weathered but warm, a sanctuary where Lila Morrow and Titan had woven a life from the threads of courage and love. The German shepherd bounded through the clover, his black and tan fur gleaming, his amber eyes alight with a joy that erased the scars of 4 years in Ironwood's cages. His barks rang clear, his bounds free, a dog whose heart had found its home, his trust in Lila, a flame that burned eternal. Lila sat on the porch, her chestnut hair loose, her hazel eyes glistening with a pride that filled her soul. The cabin's hearth glowed within, Titan's blanket a throne by the fire, a rope toy chewed with love, a testament to a journey from fear to freedom. Vance's defeat, the crew's arrest, had lifted a weight, leaving only light. Light in Titan's wag, in her laughter, in a future they'd fought for. "Hey, big guy," she said, her voice a melody of gratitude, her smile radiant as she tossed a ball. Titan leapt, his jaws gentle, his tail a blur, a dance of redemption, a dog who'd chosen her forever. The meadow hummed with life, bees in the clover, the creek's silver song, pines whispering of peace. Titan followed Lila inside, his paws steady, his nose nudging her hand, a boldness that warmed her core. She knelt, her fingers stroking his fur, her whisper a vow. "You're my heart, Titan." His amber eyes met hers, a trust deep and unshakable, a dog whose love was her anchor, her joy. She offered a biscuit, her heart swelling when he took it, his wag a rhythm of miracles, a victory etched in every glance, every bound. Willow Creek was their haven, its fields a canvas for a life reborn, Briarfield's shadows now a memory. Vance's voice silenced, the fight rings broken, a past that could no longer touch them. Lila tended the cabin, planting herbs, painting shutters, teaching Titan to fetch. Her hands gentle, her voice a guide for his strength. She hung bells on the gate, not from fear but habit, their chime a song of safety, a reminder of how far they'd come. Her phone buzzed. Sam, now a friend. "Shelter's naming a wing after Titan. Your story's saving dogs." Lila's eyes misted, her hand on Titan, her love a legacy. Midday brought visitors, Sam and Dr. Ellis, their truck rattling down the dirt road, their arms full of treats and news. "He's a king," Ellis said, her eyes soft as Titan greeted them, his tail wagging, his growl gone, a dog who welcomed allies, who trusted the world Lila had built. Sam knelt, offering a toy, his grin wide. "You're a legend, boy." Titan took it, his amber eyes bright, a dog daring to play, to love, to live. Lila led them to the meadow, her voice warm as she shared Titan's triumphs, his runs, his barks, a heart healed by time and care. They sat by the creek, its waters a mirror for their joy, Sam's news a gift. "Vance's crew, locked up for good. Your stand broke them." Lila's tears fell, her hand resting on Titan, his warmth a vow. "He broke them," she said, her voice thick, her hazel eyes shining with pride for the dog who'd stood with her, whose courage had turned fear to dust. Ellis nodded, her advice a blessing. "Keep loving him, Lila. He's your miracle." Titan splashed nearby, his bark a song, a dog free of ghosts, his home a truth no one could steal. Evening draped Willow Creek in a golden hush, the cabin's glow a beacon of love. Lila cooked salmon, its scent drawing Titan close, his nose nudging her knee, his boldness a spark that lit her soul. She laughed, offering a bite, her hazel eyes glistening when he took it, his tail wagging freely, a dance of joy that felt eternal. "We made it," she said, her voice soft, her hand stroking his fur, a trust as deep as the creek, as wide as the meadow. They sat by the hearth, Lila dreaming, Titan's head on her lap, his breaths deep, a peace they'd won together. Night fell, the meadow alive with stars, their light a canvas for memories. Ironwood's cage, the car's shadow, Vance's threat, all fading under Titan's bounds, Lila's courage, a bond that held fast. She opened her journal, its pages a story of redemption. Titan runs free, my hero, my home. Willow Creek was there forever, its fields a gift for a dog whose wag was her sunlight, whose glance was her strength. "You saved me too," she whispered, her smile radiant, her hand resting on his fur, a touch he welcomed, a love he returned. Briarfield buzzed with Titan's tale, shelters sharing his story, adoptions rising, a wing named for a dog who'd defied death. Sam visited, his camera capturing Titan's leaps, Lila's laughter, a tale for others to hold. Dr. Ellis spread word, her clinic a hub for strays, Titan's legacy a spark for second chances. But in Willow Creek, time was small, Lila's hum, Titan's bark, a life woven from quiet moments. The world beyond cheered, posts, articles, a ripple of hope. But here, love was vast, a German shepherd's heart, the center of it all. Years later, Willow Creek would speak of Titan, a legend of a dog who rose from a cage, whose love broke chain, whose trust lit a meadow. The cabin stood, its porch lined with flowers, Lila older, Titan graying, his bounds slower but his amber eyes undimmed, fixed on her, a bond eternal. Sam's photos hung, a shelter's wing thrived, but in the quiet, Lila and Titan were enough. Walks by the creek, naps by the fire, a story complete. On warm nights, Lila sat with Titan, her journal closed, her voice a whisper. "You're my forever, big guy." His tail thumped, his nudge a vow, a love that time couldn't fade. The meadow bloomed, its clover a carpet for his steps, its peace a gift for a dog who'd fought for it. Lila's laughter rang, her heart full, a vet tech who'd chosen a scarred soul, a German shepherd who'd chosen her back. The stars watched, Willow Creek held them, and in its gentle embrace a miracle lived, a home forged by courage, a life born of a dog's second chance.